Hi, friends. Welcome to Luminous Human School. I'm Christy Sandino, and I'm here with Lindsay Davis. And today we are so honored to have Mena Teijeiro as our guest. Mena is the founder and CEO of The Florrest, a boutique retreat forest. She's the best-selling author of Success Redefined with Jack Canfield. She is a possibilities igniter and holistic wellness mentor. Mena brings together a unique blend of strategy and holistic practices to support teams in making a powerful impact in their communities. Her journey has equipped her to guide leaders, change makers, and those eager to create positive change, bridging practical solutions with deeply transformative experiences.
With an MBA from Chicago Booth, business background, and over a decade of experience in wellness, energy, and personal development, Mena created a nurturing space at The Florist where both men and women can reconnect with their purpose, transform challenges into opportunities, and deepen their capacity to lead with intention. Through her transformational retreats, she invites you to explore new possibilities, strengthen your inner resolve, and step into a life of alignment and authentic expression for the good of all.
Welcome, Mena. We are delighted to have you here with us today.
Oh, I'm so happy you guys invited me, and I've known you, Christy, for a while, but it's my first time with Lindsay. So I'm so
Yeah.
looking forward to this conversation.
Me
Yeah, me too. So, gosh, you have some really beautiful projects happening right now and some big offerings in the world. And I thought we would just start for people that don't know you by asking you about your beautiful retreat center, The Florist. And maybe you could start by telling us about the name and the spirit of the place itself and a little bit about its birth in this world.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for starting with that question. You know, sometimes you think you're going to be asked at the end, so thank you for igniting with that. My inner child is really happy right now. So, the florist, it's a word that honors what it is, a forest. But it goes deeper because it has the L that adds the flow.
Mm.
It has the double R to roar into our passion and our intention and our fire for life. And then
Mm.
it has rest, right? And it's like, ah, until we rest from the conditioning, from our past, from worry, from stress, we can't awaken to what is truly here, to what we are. And so the name vibrates in this energy of like, we get to rest, we get to roar into what we truly are. And once we set the clear intentions, then we can flow. And so the florist is a 153-acre property with the intention of awakening the land, honoring the land, and inviting souls to come, to heal, to be honored in who they are. And it's an invitation for all of us to come together in nature, which is the planet that we're on, to honor our sovereignty so that we can gather by each one being honored, each soul, whatever journey you're on, wherever you are, to be honored so you can unfold, relax, open up, right? Feel, breathe, share your story. Connect to your dreams and see nature, how it's so organic and it has its own timings, and you have the winter and you have the blossoming and you have the more uncomfortable and the beauty, and that's what we are. And so that's the beauty of the florist. It has domes, which are beautiful circular geodesic structures that are the language of existence, right? So
Mm.
you connect the math and the numbers. And these structures really inform our subconscious. Years ago, I went to Iceland to a retreat. One of the aspects of the teaching was sacred geometry. And I sat in the back row that day. And as the teacher, Scott Olson, who's an amazing teacher of sacred geometry, he has his own books, was teaching, I had rivers of tears just flowing. And
Really?
I was watching the teacher, listening, taking notes, but I had rivers of tears just flowing down. You know, when you wipe yourself like this,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, wow, like this is something. So years later, when I found the property and I saw the domes, the larger dome and the smaller dome connected, I'm like, oh my God, this is the masculine energy with the feminine
Mm.
together in that balance, which is all of us. All creation is made from the masculine and feminine. The masculine holds the structure, the direction, the protection, and the feminine is that creative flow, the receptivity, the creativity, the blossoming. And so when those two are balanced, then we can come out into the world to share. And that's the event dome, the harmony hive, which is a place where we all gather. And we're all in our inner dance of the divine masculine and feminine, sharing together, coming into this hive. And then the building next to it, I created it so it's like a Wi-Fi signal, sending out all the work we're doing, whether it be energetic or breath or more intellectual or creativity, whatever is being we're rippling it out into the world. So very aware of how we show up, how we're working together and moving together is impacting the world. So that's the
Incredible.
first little answer to your question.
I have a question that popped up in my mind as you were talking about that, and it was just that, like, what was the vision, the original vision that you had for this place, and has it changed? Is it different than that original vision, or has it shifted?
Thank you. So the original vision, I think, ignited maybe 15 years ago. And it's like I grew up traveling around the world, very grateful, traveling around the world with my family, maybe 2 months a year. So Russia, China, Australia, New Zealand, Turkey, Israel, like all over. And they were these pristine trips where we would do a city, we would do intellectual, and then we'd go to a Club Med and that had all this freedom as a teenager. And I would do trapeze show and I'd go kayaking and race on the lasers. We do the talent shows. And so I love traveling. So I love this sense of just meeting new people, of honoring culture, of understanding that wherever I was, that's what I would have learned. And so it was beautiful to have this experience. And I loved planning the trips for my family.
Mm.
So, and my family was like, oh, when I grow up, I want to manage a hotel or something. So that was one aspect. Then I lived in so many different cities. I've lived in Chicago doing an MBA, in London working as a consultant, New York City having my children, then moved to Miami, originally Argentinian. My first years were in DC. So a lot of travel, a lot of movement, different cultures, and having the sense of welcoming people because I didn't feel that I belonged fully. So
Uh,
I tapped into that sensation of, oh, let me let people feel welcome. And so then I had that sense of welcoming. There came a point in my life where I had all the checklists of society. I was married, had children, lived in a beautiful house in Key Biscayne, had nanny, had cleaner, like spend whatever I wanted. But inside it was so empty. I wasn't choosing, I wasn't living a life that felt fulfilling. I didn't feel the depth of connection with my husband at the time. We were great at doing and co-creating, but there was that lack of connection and
mm.
true intimacy of the soul. And so I started learning about energy and breath and retreats. And so when all this came together, I had the vision of having a retreat when my kids go to college. And this happened way sooner because when a hurricane hit Miami, I had 2 investment properties, no hurricane insurance.
Oh.
And so I'm there with a category 5 hurricane in front in Bahamas in front of Miami, aware that this can completely like just destroy the true properties I had. And I'm like, okay, message received. I get to diversify. And so I told the friend told this couple, and I was like, well, maybe I can invest for them. And so then they sent me a video of this property. So many people go on like searches and how many properties did you have to look and explore until you found your property? This is the first one.
That's amazing.
That's
It
it.
is amazing.
Property. So when I came here and saw the vastness of the land, the comparison of how much that was worth in Miami, and just the rolling hills and the beautiful pine trees, and I was able to connect to the soul of the property. And I made an offer. It was a yes. And so when I came here, then my boys were seeing me, falling in love with this place. And they were like, if you're going to move here, we're going to go live with dad.
Mm.
And the dad was asking for them for the previous 2 years. Every month he would ask, I want them to come to Tennessee.
Mhm.
And so I opened my hands and off they went.
Mm. Wow.
Now I moved all my things to Georgia, to this place. And so in honest truth, there was a knowing in my heart of a retreat space. It was, if you look at my life, you could see how I loved gathering, how I loved traveling, how I loved cultures and connecting on a soul basis with people. And that desire to welcome and make people feel at home. And the time came sooner because I offered it to another. I bought it thinking other people would come to the property. It didn't
Oh.
work out with them. And then
Ah,
it didn't work out for them. Then it was in my hands again. And my kids are like, bye, mom. So
interesting.
it happened sooner. Yeah. And so
What
you would think, it's like, oh, you had it all figured out. I didn't. My Mena didn't, but there's a master plan.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, when you spoke about just looking at one property and finding that yes, do you have a process for connecting with your inner yes? Because that's a huge leap. So I find that a lot of people want to make change, and for even, maybe a small move like changing a job or just making shifts in life, it can be so difficult to get to that yes, to know that, you know, to move away from what's known into the unknown. What was that process for you?
This is a brilliant question. I remember being a young kid looking at the people who really suffered. Remember those African runners that were barefoot, almost no food, and then that they become these amazing athletes. They become Olympians, right? And so my awareness is like, wow, it was so unbearable. Their life was so uncomfortable. It became so unbearable that all they did was just to focus on that, on run, 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 run. And so they become like extraordinary humans just because their life became unbearable and now they're focused on this to survive. And so I can tell you that I had like an environment that was so like abundant and fulfilled and surrounded, but the energetics were off. And I wasn't in my power to hold those energies at bay. I would absorb all the distortions. And so it affected my self-esteem, my capacity to speak. I would freak out of speaking in public. So
Wow.
like today I can celebrate, like I really, really, really prefer to die. Really, like to have this conversation was a dream, and to not be able to express myself was such a heavy burden that I'm like, that was so uncomfortable. No, I'm going to do this. So I signed up to Toastmasters, and I'm going to get into my discomfort. And I remember the first time, like I had to say one sentence. I went to the bathroom. One sentence to a group that was welcoming, come here, like we're all getting better at speaking, and it was the safest group, but my body was. So for me, it's about this, like, I cannot live, this can't be it. Like, this can't be my life.
Yeah.
This can't be it.
Yeah.
in the magic and mystery and wonder and the resources that we have compared to the rest of the planet. And I have all this much, and I'm just living a meh, or like not even wanting to wake up. That was unacceptable.
Mm.
I had an accumulation of things that arose. I went to give my TED talk, and somebody close to the family sent the police saying the nanny had kidnapped my son. So I never celebrated my TEDx in Argentina. At the
Ah,
same time, my healer for 2 years, we would work on the phone for every week on the phone. He'd support me. He came back saying, "My girlfriend is jealous. I'm sorry. It doesn't make sense, but I can't support you anymore." And
wow.
then now my kid's dad wanted the kids half the time. They had always lived with me. And a few other things happened. And that week, I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Mm.
I don't want to be here anymore. And it was just a mantra. It was strong within me. Now, my grandfather had killed himself when my mom was young. And so I knew the pain of that. So my mind would never go and kill myself. I was just like, it wasn't an option. But that
Okay.
thought was still repeating. So I had the thought and I couldn't even act on it. So I was even a prisoner of that desire.
Oh, wow.
What happened? Universe heard me. It was a true I don't want to be here anymore. And universe said, here you go. You want out, you got out. So it was December 2017. I'm driving through the streets of Wynwood full of graffitis and movement and aliveness, and I'm just driving intersection. I'll always remember on my left the school bus and the driver. We like connected eyes.
Whoa.
School bus, yellow bus, right in my face. That was it. Like God, universe gave me my out. I was like, wow, I asked for it. Here it is.
It was like a door that said, okay, you can choose. And you don't even like,
It was there. It was
yeah,
given. So in that moment, I could have like put the brakes on and go, ah, I was out. I would have been out. There was no way I could survive a like full frontal impact of a school bus on my side. But in that moment, and I can remember it right now because when we're so alive, that moment becomes like infinite. You'll remember it forever.
Yeah.
And I looked across on the other side. There were no cars coming, and boom, my car responded. Range Rover Evoque, super strong engine, small chassis, and I just accelerated out of the way. And half a block later, I arrived to the gym. And listen to this. I was going to a HIIT class, high intensity interval training. It was a HIIT class.
Yeah.
And I would say it hit me that that was my chance,
Oh, wow.
that
right.
my soul chose to be here.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. So Mena, the consciousness that was repeating that, wanted out.
Hmm.
The soul wanted to stay.
Mm.
And this is for all of us. If we're here, your soul wants to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
For all this message is for all of us. So I always say, let's learn from each of us the experiences and let's embody the lesson directly and take it. So this is the lesson. If we're here because we chose to be here. Yes, we could have forgotten. We probably forgot that when that moment we're launching into this timeline, that we're so convinced that we're meant to be here. And then in the chaos and the distortions, we forget. And so it's like, trust that we came here because we knew that the discomfort, it was going to be worth it once we got beyond it. Once we came into our power, once we were living in fulfillment, all that was going to be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the kind of fire that I have now. And so when you ask that question, how do you make decisions? Is like, I'll connect to something. It's kind of emerging, right? A tantra is like, I'll connect to my own soul. I'll like connect to my higher self, the higher self of my body and my teams. I'll ground into the earth, establish myself as this mother, father energies anchored in my heart. And then now I am, whatever I'm evaluating, I hold in front of me and I merge with it.
Oh, beautiful.
How does it feel? How does this communion, how does this collaboration feel? And I let my body respond, right?
Mhm.
And so, and then I let go, and then there's an alternative, like, okay, clean, reset again, connect to my energy. Let me connect to this alternative, and everybody listening can do this. Whatever you have in your mind, you're trying to decide. You have your two options. You anchor into yourself, merge with the first option. After you let it settle in your body, let it go, reset again, reboot, shake, 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 come back to center. Now connect to the second option. How does that feel? Right?
Beautiful.
We
Have
all have
you?
we all have different human designs, right? Mine is the one that's splenic. I know immediately. So I
Mm.
know. And so in this energy of like, I'm going to live the life that my soul came for. My mind doesn't know it. My environment doesn't know it. I'm willing to jump. I'm going to trust fall. So I already know that. And it's part of like how I operate now. I'll trust fall. But now, human design, if you look at your chart and you look at how you're making decisions, that's very crucial. Some people need to digest and process and feel. And then there's going to come a moment where it's like, oh, this is my answer. It's like the oven, the little bell in the oven will go off. Bling. Okay, process. You've cooked the emotions long enough that now you, right? And so we're all different. So I just shared how I approach it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you. I wanted to, just for the sake of deepening the sharing of that practice a little bit, ask about the sensations in your body, because I know for me, when I've done this practice enough times that I know what a yes feels like in my body and a no feels like in my body. So they've over time started to have a quality for me that generally is similar each time I'm feeling into a decision. So for me, a yes feels like everything is widening out, expanding a little bit. It feels lighter. And when it's a no, I feel it like lower in my body and a little bit more of a closing in. So I was wondering if there are recognizable sensations in your body that you've developed, or if each time you come to this, it feels like something unique.
Great question. And this goes back to our power of also setting intention. So
Mhm.
one thing I'll do with food, the muscle testing, where you can connect to something, and then if it's a true or it's fine, then you're going to hold the grip. And if it's affecting you, then you'll lose your grip with the same intensity of trying to pass your finger. So it would be really weird to go around life or to be eating at a restaurant and start doing this all the time. So I was like, okay, so there are other ways. So one way I do is I've learned that my body is a different consciousness.
Mm.
And so I will be present with food. And so then I ask my body if it wants to eat the food or not. Or I ask menu, like eyes land on what you want to eat. So I'll go over and I'm like, okay, my body wants to eat that. And then I honor that. That's one way I do it. The other is, so the same as the two options, like let's say we have an apple and a mango. And so now it's not the soul for a decision. Now it's the body with what it wants to eat. So now I ask my body, do you want to eat the apple or the mango? So if you want to eat the apple, let me know how you feel about it. So like a tingling in the belly will be a yes.
Mm.
Sensation in the back will be no, don't eat it.
Okay.
If it's indifferent, it doesn't care, it's just going to tingle in my head. So I define those things. And so now these are games we can play all the time. Like establish yourself, clean yourself of other energies, right? Be open to ask questions, and then you want to honor it. Because if we start asking questions and we get an answer and we don't honor it, then it's kind of like not being in integrity with your body, with your questions, with your truth of why you're asking the question.
Mhm.
And so one thing for me when I was embodying the yes of choosing the property, it was just like a flow and just feeling the light that I am, just like a stronger flow of my soul through my body, right? And then you can compare it to things that you know you really love or really good for you and things that are not. And so you can establish the parameters. Let's say, like, I'll feel horrible if I drink beer. Oh my God. Like, I feel like that school bus ran over me if I have a beer, right? So let me connect to the beer and then let me play that game with the beer. And like, we can do it right now, all of us. We can just anchor into your own body, just establish yourself, connect to your higher self, the higher self of your body in teens, then anchor to the earth, establish yourself as a pillar of light. And at the beginning, you might want to do it slower. And then you connect to the beer. And then you just feel what you're feeling. And then you make a mental memory of what this imprint feels on your field. And now you reset. And then you can journal about it, you can write about it, you can do a drawing about it. And so you're very aware of how that's impacting on you. And so now you can have like a glass of kombucha if it's something that you love and it's just brings you gut health and joy with all the bubbly and color. So and now you reset and now you connect with the kombucha. And you see, what's the experience here? And then you can journal and connect to that.
Oh.
And now we become empowered. Like now we're really seeing. Now we can make decisions. And so playing with these things, you get to know yourself more. You get to know your body more. And then so play with the little things. And then you get a stronger muscle for the bigger things.
Yeah, what a way to like really empower ourselves, in that way, and know that, like, okay, not only do, like, I think I want this, but like my body, my soul, like it's all in alignment, all is saying yes to this. Yeah, I think, these are such beautiful practices, and really, tapping into that inner guidance, and the higher power that's guiding us. And I'm curious, have you always done these types of practices, or like how did you learn them? Like what sparked that kind of like ability in you to connect in this way and begin to follow that?
I think I was always very sensitive, but what I was sensitive to was people's heartbreak and their longing and what they needed and their pain and their rejection, their jealousy. And so I think I came with a very open heart, sensitive to others and distorted. And at the end became what saved me was I was very disciplined. So I was a really good student and I did a lot of sports and I worked out from a young age and I was super nerdy and I like reading all the Time magazine and The Economist. That was my way of connecting with the world, like knowing everything that was happening in the world. I realized that that was my way of like being with all, being with the whole world. And I don't do that anymore. I'm like, let me connect with the energies
Yeah.
of unity consciousness versus the distortions of the planet. But so the answer to your questions, I always felt a lot, but it
Okay.
took me a lot of struggle and discomfort until I started going to meditations and breath work and training in so many different modalities. Like if I tell you what I'm like I feel bad about is how much I study and how much I learn. And feels like you shouldn't feel bad about that. But I nerd out, I study, I like devouring all things. And I almost don't even share it because there's something that makes me feel bad about it. But I just have this devotion for experiencing energy and light and healing. And I got to get past that. And just share it. So I have so many different experiences with energetics and being with it. And the more we see something and acknowledge it, it comes alive to its project. And so the more we're present with intention with something, the more it'll activate. The more it'll activate. So my first meditation, I went to a group. My first meditation, 2009, I was already a mama, and it was in the neighborhood where I was. And we sat in the circle, and maybe it was five, six of us. It was at a friend's house. And so they guided us. And oh, I felt my heart cracking open, and there was this waterfall of water coming out of my heart. And it was this cracking open. And when we got to sharing, it was such a vivid image. It was my first meditation. Everyone was like, whoa. So it was a pretty intense first experience of
Yeah.
meditating. And I think for a time, I did a lot of plant medicine. Um, Back when it wasn't popular and people weren't really talking about it. And now I don't talk about it just because I like to focus on the spaces that are sober, that you don't need something external, but also
Right.
because I've done it so much. I've done it so much. But what the plant medicine did, it opens up the fields. And so it's a soup of everybody's fields. And
Mm.
because I didn't have any boundaries, I got attacked energetically so much.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
Feel attacked. I've had 5 ceremonies where I did not think I would come out.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
because I felt that attacked, and I wasn't in my power. I didn't know how to hold those boundaries. So my journey with plant medicine was one of learning, stepping into my boundaries, coming into my power. I remember one session where I was like, oh, I wish I could be a light in the world and heal all the pain in the world. Do you know what happened with cancel delete? Do you know what happened with that one? I spent like 2 hours in a mud of flies and
Mm,
disgust. So with that intention of like, I want to be such a beautiful light that I heal the chaos and the pain of the world, we don't know, but that's a terrible phrase because we're not meant to process and clear and carry other people's burdens and karma. And so I spent 2 hours in a muck of mud of disgust with
wow.
flies flying around me. And
Wow.
so I've had like such depth of experience of things that we say that are distorted that do not help us. And so
Mm,
all this sensitivity with energies has taught me come back into your sovereign energy, clear out, return responsibilities that are not yours, return soul fragments that are not yours, give it back to the appropriate owner, retrieve energies that are mine, my soul fragments, my responsibilities, retrieving my resources that I came. When I say I'm sending you my love, like we're giving parts of us away. We're sending our love to people, right?
Yes.
So there are little things we're saying that actually distort our energy fields. And so I'll say it sometimes. I'm like, well, I didn't mean that. you know, bring my light back, bring my resources back, because we all get to recover our resources and
mm,
live from that space of sovereignty, of being the kings and queens of our energy fields, and being taking care of what is ours. As we take care of what is ours, we shine our gifts, we're templating to each other. So now I can show you the answer. That's the most loving, right?
mm.
And so for people in LA right now, Chrissy, you told me at the beginning, how can we help people right now? It's like templating to them how we're home in our hearts, how we're safe in our bodies, how home always was our light, right? Like our home is in our heart. It's not a building. Yes, we can mourn the loss. Of course, we can
Mm.
mourn the loss.
Absolutely.
And our home is within us, truly. And so we can template that knowing to them. And then the coming together of community when we're sovereign, that's going to remove the manipulation of people trying to use others' resources or their light for their own convenience, or people that want to latch on to another as people pleasers, where now they're not responsible for their own kingdom and queendom. And so, with this new way of being sovereign and responsible for our own energy, we can be compassionate with each other, we can support, but not in a way that we're depleting and mixing our energies and having a distortion, but where we're all clean in our own vessels, overflowing energy. And now, with that overflow, we have so much more to give.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so beautiful.
that makes me like just kind of wonder in terms of this, we're going through our day, we're kind of sending our energy lots of places, we're intermingling with people, and what are we saying? What are our intentions, unconscious intentions that are leaking our energy out, right? So like what do we do? How do we hold those strong boundaries? How do we call our energy back in? Do we do that every night? Do we, is that how do we maintain that sovereignty when there's so much happening in the world, so much we're interacting with?
It's like a training muscle, right? At the beginning, it's really difficult. Everything's going to hurt. You don't want to work out for the next 3, 4 days. But then when you're on it and you feel so good, then you're like, if you're going to miss it, now if you don't do it, you miss it. And you're like, oh my God, I need to work out. So the same way, ideally, like in the most advanced state, we're just present with our energy, aware of what's arising. So suddenly you feel your mom's energy. I was like, okay, that's not mine. Return it. Right? Like, mama, that's yours. It's like, oh, that's a fear. I know that's not mine. Return to
Mm,
sender. And so we would be in this open meditation, this open attention of presence, of breath all the time. That's where we would want to be, right? It takes a lot of work and constant, right? So it's easier to do it when I'm at the Florrest in a retreat center practicing that on a retreat,
Yeah.
right? And then you go home and then you're like, oh, more aware because now you became a little more sensitive. So now you can see and now you can journal. Okay, these patterns are happening recurrently. And so now
mm,
you can prepare yourself. And you can put timers on your phone, or you can put reminders, or read something in the morning to prepare for it.
Mm.
And play is a game. The best thing we can do is play the game of coming into our sovereignty, of clearing our soil, our soul, so that we can detox what doesn't serve us and nurture what does.
Yeah.
And so this is how moment by moment we're the gardeners. And back to the sacred geometry and the math, I think that's the religion that could unite us all. And it's the math, the compound interest curve, right? Because it's gonna spike up, but you need to be consistent and you need to stay on that prayer of detox, nurture, detox, nurture. And that prayer is to be our authentic self.
Yeah.
That's it.
mm.
Like my prayer is to be my authentic self, and that to be in community, and I'm supporting people to be in their authentic self, their gifts, right? I want the pine's gonna not worry. Do I need to be like that willow? Do I need, it's not worrying what it's gonna be, it's just being.
Yeah.
It's raining, it's taking in the water. It's sun, it's soaking up the sun. And so, like, nature always reminds me, I wanna be what I am. And then moment by moment, by being in safe spaces, right? That's the beauty of retreats and gatherings. And like we get to be in safe spaces where we go like, oh, take off that like shell. It's like
Mm.
dare a little more and dare a little more to be yourself and to try and to know that everybody's in that game. So it's okay. You can test it. And then the more you practice being in the spaces free, the more you dare to be free. And so it's
Mm.
like find these safe spaces of freedom, practice, get to know yourself better, go back, go back where you're meant to be, where you're helping, wherever. Like, and so have these games of coming and going.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so powerful to step away from the routines and places that you are just in this pattern day after day, because we start to have these thought processes and belief systems that we can't see. So places where we think there might not be a solution, or this is the way that something needs to be done, when we step outside of that and allow ourselves the space to even notice that we're thinking those thoughts, all of a sudden these brand new ways of being and solutions can come that didn't seem possible. Yeah.
Experience it. I can tell because that's it. It's just like, wow, it was here all the time. But it's kind of having these beliefs that say, I'm not going to look at that because this is what I believe, and I'm not going to believe that. And so suddenly we break free from the patterns of our brain knowing how we're going to think in a certain space. And suddenly it's a space that invites for energy to move and for you to reinvent yourself. It invites you to explore and get to know yourself a little bit more. And so suddenly that comes off. And then there's no way back. Once you see something, there's no way back. And the beauty is learning how to play that game, that dance of being ourselves, and also honoring the spaces that know us in a different way, and to know how to have patience and relate with that, and how to energetically template to them the new energy so now they still feel connected to us. That's
Mm.
another thing I do. Whenever I do upgrades, energetic, now establish this new level of energy and template back to all the loved ones and everybody I want to stay be connected to. Template back that energy so now they still feel safe. They still feel they can connect me. I'm still here.
I
Amazing.
love that.
Yeah.
That's so, I love that you said that because sometimes I feel like people will say things, and I think there's truth to it too in some capacity, although I guess it depends on what you believe, that you up level your energy, raise your vibration, and then like people will fall away. And yeah, that can happen. But I love this feels so much more empowering, where it's like they don't have to, just because I'm up leveling and raising my vibration, it doesn't just mean that certain people have to fall away. I can like you're saying, template that energy to them so that they're still coming along with me. And that's what I would want, is my loved ones like, let's go, like I rise, we rise together, like come along.
Yeah. And it's that invitation without any expectation, right?
Yes.
My children, because their dad was so different in the way he sees the world, very successful, very hard worker, determined, like so proud of him, right?
Yeah.
In the way of energy and empathy and connection, and we're different in that way. And so my children hesitated from learning from me.
Mm.
Still to this day, I could never have this conversation with them, right? It's like, whoa, weird, no, like, bye, right? They have something better to do.
Yeah.
And so I can still do that. I can still be myself and template to their higher self, which is ready to receive,
Yeah.
right? We can still send to our loved ones, but it's like, hey, this information is here if you want it. And so then that soul will receive it to the degree it wants when it wants it, and then reflect it back here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
that's a way of like honor, like, let me honor that soul. They don't want to do that right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm going
Right.
to honor their journey. I'm going to honor their sovereignty. And the key for us is to keep growing and keep evolving and daring to have these conversations. This conversation that we're here having here today, I rarely do this publicly, right? I do this with clients, word of mouth, but I don't share it. I don't share it publicly. So thank you for
Oh,
the
I'm so happy that you're
So
sharing.
honored.
thank you for
I
this.
love the way you spoke about uh the practice, the daily practices as compound interest, like then you kind of drew with your hand the chart, because I've never heard that language used around this path. And I know you have that corporate background and the love of mathematics and sacred geometry that you spoke about, and the way you're um, bringing those worlds together, I just think is the medicine this world needs right now. I think it's so important. And I know that you're offering corporate retreats. So can you speak about ways to bridge these worlds and not continue to feel like, oh, we're spiritual people and we live over here, and oh, you're an economist, you're not part of my world, or this divide that we kind of have. I know that there's growth in the corporate world area and more people are seeing the value in this work, but I would love to hear your take on dissolving the idea that we're separate.
Mm. This question is so key to my heart because I felt I have this background in economics, MBA Chicago booth, consultant with PricewaterhouseCoopers, internet startup, and then went deep into all this energy world. And so I didn't feel fully belonging into the energy world or how that people show up or not too formal or too hippie or whatever that is, that not like family aligned with family with Burning Man and being a mother and teenage boys, and couldn't fully belong there. And then the corporate world would now doesn't understand what I'm doing. And so it's been a very humbling path to find myself and to find what is that middle ground. What I found was the answer is nature.
Mm.
And so nature, coming back to the seasons, coming back to the math that I shared of compound interest, coming back to a framework that came through exactly a decade ago, and I called it Awaken Flow. And the part is, awaken is that lightning bolt of seeing, of understanding, like what we get to focus on, and through the intentionality, allowing the flow of the divine, the flow of our soul to come through. And so it has this vision, this macro vision of us being part of a hive. We all have hives, and we're at the center of it, bringing different people and inviting them to be in their full expression. And now we're taking care of our own hexagon, our own environment, in three different landscapes and the three players, which is the soul, the body, and other people, relationships in our life. And so I created this whole framework on how to focus on this, which is based on nature, which is based on how we can collapse this now with a deeply fulfilling now. Mathematical, the equal like this, the plus, the minus, and the exclamation. And so I've taught it to 5-year-olds to 6-year-olds. And basically, in this now we're living right now, and we have a fulfilling now that our soul wants to live, and it's that authentic, fulfilling life that our soul wants. And how can we collapse it? What are those key things that equal, the plus, the minus, and the exclamation are going to collapse it? So in this now we're fulfilled. And so those are the things that I taught, and that's how I can bridge people who are intellectual with the people who are spiritual, because the equal is feel now the way you would feel if you were fulfilled. You want to be fulfilled, feel fulfilled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plus is take action right now, no matter how small.
Mm.
Like today we can do the smallest thing. You want to get in shape, do 5 push-ups, done. You want to be a speaker, call somebody. You're already speaking and presenting your ideas. You can always do something. The minus is observe where we're tripping, what's not working. And now every time that comes up, it's the red flag to remember what you do want. So instead of feeling guilt or shame, now let's say if somebody invited me to dinner to eat pizza and beer, and I actually wanted to feel good and vibrant and feel good in my body, then that invitation will trigger, hey, let's go for a sunrise walk and let's go for juice. And so now the trigger becomes the reminder of what I actually want. And then the exclamation is the gratitude. So now we have everything. We have the embodiment, the action, the awareness of the struggle, that now the reminder of the struggle reminds me of what I'm actually going to do, and then the celebration and gratitude for already have. And so then that repeats over the 6 areas of the players of the game and the environments you're playing in. And so I've been teaching this for 10 years, and so now I'm teaching it to corporates as team building to the degree the team wants. And so do they want to rest and just relax? Is it just a celebration weekend? Is it a weekend for learning? And so I lean in to feel what they're ready for. and I interview each participant before they come. So I know what are their struggles, what are their dreams. And so I'm really listening so that I can present it in a way that goes with their brain, that they can open up and receive versus like shy away from it. And so that's what I've been doing. And so my heart feels pulled and like wanting to do this and wanting to do that. And since I have the property, like I get to focus first on serving through the property. And then this program, I want to offer it to so many more people. But because everyone's like, you got to niche it, you got to niche it. If it's something that helps everybody, but because it's not niched enough, then it's been a struggle to how do I market it? Where do I put it? Who am I talking to? But it's going to come because I just have so much love and so much that I've created around it, that that's my answer to bridging the world of business and corporate, united it in math, united it in nature, and listening to people and frame it. We can always frame, all of us, even like you're listening to us right now and you want to share somebody with somebody you love, you talk in their language. So you have real estate people, you talk about the value of your land, of it's how powerful and how you want to take care of it. And you talk to an architect, you talk about pillars and the foundation and how it has to be clean and sturdy and good vibrations. Like so you talk in the terms of the people. So that's like one of my gifts. I can really talk, I listen, and then I can guide based on the person's needs. And that's why it's been difficult for me just to like, hey, look at this, learn from this, where like it's just everybody could serve from it in my mind. And so it's like I need to come to that niche. So eventually I'll be able to, it's like, awaken flow for corporates, awaken flow for mothers, awaken flow for families, or and diversify and do different things.
I love that. It's so powerful. And I see how just this structure that you were able to explain so quickly can be used in so like an infinite amount of situations. What an incredible download. Yeah.
Thank you. We
Thank
all
you.
get
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that's such a gift. And this wisdom to speak to people in the language that they can understand.
Yeah.
If we could all take a little bit of that out into the world and really think about how what we want to share with someone can be received in a way that makes sense to them and will land for them. What a revolution that would be in communication.
Yeah, it's really listening, and it's finding that little opening and that crack, and then understanding like we all have different ways of thinking. And so if like we know them a little bit what they're interested in and we see that crack, then we can frame them in the way that their brain is calm about it.
Mm.
Is when we if it shakes their nervous system, they're going to shut down, go into fight or flight or whatever. So it's about finding that little opening, that crack. They need to see something and speaking it in their own words. And also, it's not like the energetics of like I'm going to stuff it in that crack. No, those little prayer walls where they're stuffing papers in the cracks.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's more of kind of like shine a light, like a small light that's not going to be glaring.
Right. It's not a manipulation. It's
No, it's an
the common
investment.
ground.
Hey, look at that edge, or look at that there. How does that feel? What do you think? What if you saw it in this way? So, those inipi, like the ceremonies, there's so many different names. Temescal, when you go into this ceremony of the womb, of the heat of the fire, that they're
Yes.
fire inside. I remember one experience. I was in there. It was so hot. I could not relax. And so for a moment, I hid behind one of the bodies. So it gave me a little protection from the heat. And in that moment that I had a little protection from the heat, I could relax a little bit. And that was the great teaching from that experience, was a little more subtle. We get to be a little more subtle, and then
Mm,
we're not going to be defending ourselves. We're going to be like open, because when the information comes soft and
yeah.
an invitation like a flower versus you got to learn this, right? So yeah, like cancel, delete, that energy's intense. So hey, like smell this flower, right?
Mm,
It's more of like smell this. Does it resonate with you? Then there's an opening up for curiosity in the inner child to explore versus a whipping. You're not getting it. You have to understand this.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like the way you put that in terms of, when we're just trying to throw things at people and it's like igniting their nervous system and then they're just like, no, 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 but when we do offer things in a subtle way with that softness, it's like inviting people to choose and still empowering them within that process and just giving them options. Like, oh, what about this?
Yeah, and I just your energy became so magnetic, right? As you were embodying that energy, like even more luminous. You know?
Right. Yeah,
Beautiful.
you're right. I think that's such a great point too, is that like when we do it that way, like people think, oh, I've got to like force this to happen. I'm gonna make it happen. And it does, it like pushes people away. Whereas what you're saying is this subtlety and the softness and the invitation, it draws to you. You become magnetic.
Mhm.
Like that's such a beautiful way to put it.
And in this world of like bodies and music and this and flash, 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 hook, hook, hook,
Mm.
that subtlety gets lost. And so that's the other side of this too. Because if I know that when I share the florist and the crackling of the leaves and the bubbling of the water in the creek and like the sun hitting the domes and I'm like and people have just like beep 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 beep. And in this piece, it's kind of like it's not it's not in the same frequency of the brain of this chaotic world. And so there is a disconnect there because we want to be the gentle and the inviting and the subtle, but everybody's in a different radio signal.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's something to think about and evaluate. And so one thing is like, how are we coming across? Do I need to like, hey, and then fun and like to attract their attention and then, kind of bring them into an experience where after they're like, yes, I want the retreat and I want, I don't know, not the case what I do, but I'm not offering dirt biking and ATV rides and like shooting and I like come for the retreat and then I lure them in. No, I'm all about transparency and authenticity.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's kind of like that's what the world is needing, kind of like high adrenaline, dopamine hits, kind of that's when they want the yes. And then you give them the peace. They're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
now I know what this is.
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
that's an art for sure. Like playing in the field of like, how do we get the attention of, how people are operating in the world right now? Like, how do I get your attention? And then now let me show you what's like really valuable here and what's going to, you know, potentially like uplift you in a way that you had no idea was available.
Exactly. When you leave these spaces of nature, or Christy, when I met you and we went on that hike that morning in Sedona, what was it,
We
five,
hiked
7?
every morning in Sedona.
And I came back just months ago to that trail, and then you reached out that week to me. That was amazing for me.
I
But
know, it was amazing.
it's almost you can't explain just what arises when you're out in nature together and breathing and trusting the flow. It just has to be lived. It's something. It's a feeling, a knowingness, an embodiment, grounded in nature that really needs to be experienced.
Coming from living a big portion of your life, like in very big cities, and then moving to total nature seclusion, how has that changed you? Or what has it taught you?
it taught me how precious silence is and the silence that brings the sounds, the harmony of nature. Um, it's kind of like, oh, I can stretch and it's all my energy. It's like, oh, a friend a few years before I moved here, she gave me a t-shirt and said, "Give me space." And I was like, the beauty of having space, of not having other energy fields here. It's just so phenomenal. I really love it. So when I get to keep the contrast, which keeps me in the awe of the magic of the nature. I believe the human body gets used to things. And so where I hear constantly, 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 I would get used to it. But by going back into the cities, back with people, back with family, visiting my children, then I get to come back and go like, my heart, when I enter the property, my heart starts bubbling and I just get so happy and just expanded. It's just a feeling that I never get it never gets old. But in that contrast, it stays fresh. It stays fresh.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it sounds like a beautiful property, and I want to come visit.
Oh my God. So that would be so fun. Would love that.
Oh, that'd be amazing. So then, with what you have going on, in terms of, you've talked about the corporate retreats and team building. Do you have anything coming up soon that you want to talk about, or anything else that you want to share?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So yeah, so corporate retreats, any wellness facilitator. So you just mentioned, Lindsay, you'd love to come. So I create opportunities for wellness leaders to come to a space where they know that the nature is going to support the transformation, where a clean space energetically, physically, where you have all the wellness amenities, cold plunge, hot tub, pool, fire pit, a beautiful event dome that just resonates in such a way that when you're in there speaking, it feels like the infinite is just pulling everything out of you. 12 miles of trails, creeks, and you have bridges and swings hidden throughout the property. So it's just magical space. So this is 153 acres in rural Georgia, just 90 minutes from Atlanta Airport. And I love supporting retreat leaders through their journey of feeling empowered and at home and really enjoying so they can receive as well. We're not meant to carry as leaders. The new leaders we get to practice. Everybody carries their own way. Everybody contributes through their energy and their shares to the space. And then the land, when you close a circle, there's so much to do, journaling and walking and the amenities I just mentioned. So there's a lot of free time for embodiment and experience and bonding between the people who come on the retreat. So then you're fully supported. So a specific offering is I'm doing an empowered giver retreat. So through my journey of being so sensitive, so heart-centered, wanting to give so much in the world, but draining so much energy, just feeling lost and collaborating with narcissists or people pleasers, and then not being able to ground and anchor my own business and my life in my own direction. And so I'm creating a retreat, which will be super fun and powerful for those who feel that they want to give more in the world, they want to overflow, but they're overgiving, they're not finding the power to take care of themselves. And so that will be a very fun experience, powerful, and just come out feeling wow, like I can speak my needs, I got me, I have a clear vision, and I have the sisterhood that I've like connected and bonded with, and we can keep supporting each other through the journey as they go home to integrate and embody all these transformations. So that's May 2nd to the 5th. So that's 2 to the 5 of the 2025. So the numbers are magical.
I love that.
5252025. So there's some magic there. So that's an opportunity to connect as well.
Amazing. That sounds incredible. And I'm gonna have to look into that because I would love to join on that.
We'll talk.
Yeah, definitely. And how can people find you? And
Yeah,
of
so
course,
I think the best way is through the florist.
okay.
So the website, and that way when I send out newsletters, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to be sharing it there as well, my personal. If some of these teachings resonate, I share different updates on the property, opportunities to come to a retreat for other retreat leaders as well, or lead your retreat here. So it's all goodness around sovereignty and empowering each other. So if that resonates, visit the website. It's theflorrest.com, TheFlorrest.com, and sign up to the newsletter. And that way we'll stay connected.
Beautiful. Yeah. And of course, we'll leave all of your links and information in the description of the podcast as well. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of this beautiful wisdom and just your energy and your passions. This has been so incredible to chat with you and to meet you. I'm like so honored that you decided to say yes to be with us today.
Oh my God, when Christy reached out to invite, it was like, oh my God, yes, the time has come. And I was part of your first podcast and so proud of you guys. And just, it's such a treat to be together in this kind of energy of souls honoring each other and being vulnerable and authentic about our path, what we're doing, and how we're showing up in the world. So for me, it's a gift to be sharing all this with you. I didn't know that this is the way we were going to go, but I'm so happy we did.
Yeah, we never know. That's the beauty of it, is like, that's what I love about this, is we just come together and we just let whatever wants to come through in such magical, beautiful ways.
And I appreciate it deeply. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, thank you to all of our listeners for joining us here. Of course, you can reach out to us if you have any questions at luminoushumanschool.com, or not .com. We don't have a website yet, but on Instagram. But yeah, thank you for being with us, and we love you so much.